Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Stardom 15th anniversary special here on the YouTube channel. I am your host, as always, Scott E. And today we are going down memory lane. We're going to talk 15 years of Stardom in only one way, and that's the way that I can. It's not going to be a complete 15-year rundown. I think a lot of people will be and have done that so well, whether it be on YouTube, whether it be written articles, so on and so forth. Many people that I call friends have done that, whether it be now or in the past. But today, what I want to do for this 15th anniversary special is just talk about what Stardom was and has been for me, and talk about some of my favorite moments, talk about some of my favorite shows, and talk about some of my favorite matches from the history of the promotion as they celebrate 15 years coming up here on the 23rd. Um, I have a lot of anniversary stuff I want to do for, two wrestlers who mean the world to me, but it would be wrong if I didn't do something for Stardom as well, especially as they celebrate such an anniversary, such an impressive anniversary, and one that I sit here and I just think to myself, how much this promotion, how much this has meant to me through the past 6 years now that I've been a fan, and it's pretty surreal. It's pretty surreal for me, because obviously I would not be covering Joshi wrestling like I do today without Stardom. That goes without saying. And I'm gonna talk about kind of my journey to becoming a Stardom fan here for those who may have jumped on this channel, may have never heard it. We will talk about that, and we'll kind of just talk about a little bit of everything in terms of my journey with Stardom and how I just greatly appreciate what the promotion gave me when I needed it most, and the many memories it's given me since I've become a fan. So hopefully you enjoy this audio. You're gonna see a lot from kind of the pre-Bushi Road era here as well. So if that's not something you're too aware of, I'd like to kind of start bringing some of that content anyways to the channel, because some of my favorite wrestling ever is from the years even before Bushi Road. Now there's plenty of years, um, you know, after that, 2021 to 20 to the end of 2022, Stardom is my favorite viewing experience as a wrestling fan ever. So there's that. But yeah, there's just so much to talk about, so much to enjoy, and I want to shout out my good friend Peps, who's putting together such an incredible video, kind of doing something similar, but including voices from all around the Joshi sphere. Um, so make sure when that video's out, you go and check that out as well. But because I had 5 minutes talking about that, I said to myself, "I can't just do 5 minutes. I need to sit down and just appreciate what an incredible 15-year ride it was." So that's why I'm calling this the 15th anniversary special. It's special for me, it's special for many others, I know that. And, you know, let's just get into it. Let's just get into why this is so important, why this is so special for myself and surely many others. I go back to 2020. Obviously, everything that's happening in the world is happening with COVID and the world essentially shutting down. And with that was my wrestling fandom in many ways. I was not all too intrigued with a WWE or AEW at the time. Those COVID shows just didn't have much fuel to them. But what I did know is that Io Shirai had become my favorite wrestler, and that had happened through the previous 2 years, really, during her time in WWE NXT. And I said to myself, okay, if I love Io Shirai, I can spend all this time that COVID gave us, while COVID was absolutely awful. It gave us so much time. It gave me so much time. to explore so much more, and that, of course, ended up being the world of Stardom. I shout out to my good friend Alex for helping me dive in probably the most unique way anyone could. Sure, I could have just watched the biggest and best matches like a million people had written up, but no, Alex gave me this incredible list dating back all the way to 2011 up until the modern day, and it gave me such a brilliant appreciation for what the promotion was at its core, from the very beginning all the way up until 2020, which is when the, of course, Bushiroad era things and such started. Um, it is surreal to think back to because I had only really been an American pro wrestling fan. I hadn't necessarily dove super into the rest of the wrestling world, beyond I had watched New Japan a number of times before that, but not to the limit of beyond that, and I sit here openly saying that because I'm not shy of sharing my story. When I jumped into Stardom, it was at a time where I do think that it was a very odd time, during COVID, especially that first year with everything that happened in Stardom. It was as unique of a time to jump in as possible, but for me, it was experiencing the history before ever watching a live show. Um, I hadn't watched a live Stardom show actually until 2021, which I know was not a big shock. It was kind of impossible to do that really up until All Star Dream Cinderella, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Um, but I had not watched a live show. It was mostly just catching up and watching every little thing I could, every little Io Shirai match, every Mayu Iwatani match, who instantly became my new favorite wrestler. Watching every Momo Watanabe match, who was also one of my favorite wrestlers. Yoko Bito, Yuzuki Aikawa, Arisa Hoshiki, who I'll talk about plenty on here, Nanai Takahashi, Jungle Kiona, like the list goes on, Kagetsu, the list goes on and on and on. And it was through Stardom that I was re-inspired and fell back in love with professional wrestling and specifically Joshi wrestling. It's what brought me to where I am today, where I am covering Stardom, obviously, but I'm covering Marigold and I'm covering Sariism and Sendai Girls and and Seedling and all these different promotions, TJPW, right? Like without this all happening at once and jumping right in and doing so in such a unique way, I wouldn't be doing this. So for that, I'm grateful. For that, I am grateful of these 15 years, the ups and downs along the way, that I've also personally have. Like, if you've been listening to me talk over the past couple of years, obviously it's been an up and down journey as well. Um, especially like post 2023. Um, but I still love it, man. I still love it. And it's because I think of moments like these. I think of the moments where what made me fall in love with Joshi? What made me fall in love with Star? And what made me fell in love with all of this? And it shouldn't come as a shock that you look to Threedom in that respect. With what finding out what Joshi wrestling was through Io Shirai, I find out who Mayu Iwatani is. I had already known who Kyrie was. She had had her WWE run. She was still in the midst of her WWE run as Kyrie Sane. I know who she was. She didn't necessarily grasp me as much as Io had, but I appreciated her work, and getting to see her in a Stardom ring was like watching a completely different wrestler and similar to Io in so many ways. But then there was the third. Who was this third person I had never heard of? That was Mayu Iwatani. And obviously now, I have watched every big Mayu match possible. I've watched her debut match 100 times. I've watched so many of her matches. I call her the greatest of all time for a reason. But it's these three that just, again, helped me fall in love with all of this. It is through their trios matches, through the times they faced off one on one, you know, The first time I ever watched an Io versus Mayu match was a experience in itself, and the stories that they were telling in the ring, and the beauty of what they were able to tell in the ring. The times I got to see Kyrie face off with those 2 and so on and so forth, you know? I love this picture of them because not only is it pure joy and a time that, you know, it would be amazing to witness one more time in our lives, a freedom reunion such as this, but look at them holding all the gold in the world and just having the best of times and leading Stardom forward. You know, this was still years before I got into it, but at the same time, watching back, going through the clips, going through their matches, going through their best, it's like I was able to relive it. I was able to feel it by going in order and doing so. And I'm amazed. I'm amazed because for so long, you know, you can go back and read columns and message boards or whatever. For the longest time, it was, oh, it's Io, Kyrie, and then Mayu. And it's amazing to think where we've gone since, you know, even this moment that we're looking at right here. But I credit these three for helping me fall so obsessed with what Joshi wrestling is and how great it can be because of the stories that they told all together, whether it be together or apart. And I think that without Freedom, again, I am not here. Without Io, I don't try. Without Mayu, I don't stick around. Without Kyrie, I don't, you know, have a when Kyrie came back, um when Kyrie came back in 2022, that was a very unique experience for me because it was one of those things that kind of felt unimaginable, and to see her as someone who I had seen first as a WWE superstar to walk back into a Stardom ring that I was so enamored with and so obsessed with, that was a unique feeling and all by itself, you know, and it's just like it's those moments and those memories that these 3 have all given me, and to think that, you know, I got to see these these 3 face off in singles matches live all these years later, whether it was Kyrie versus Mayu at Historic Crossover or Io versus Mayu at Marigold Grand Destiny last year. I know Kyrie and Io face off, in WWE as well, but those 2 matches, man, it's like it's 2 of my favorite matches ever because it was a pipe dream when I got into this company, not into this company, but into Joshi, and to think I have seen them, and not only did they live up to expectations, but in so many ways exceeded expectations as 2 sensational matches. It's the beauty of Joshi in so many ways. It's the ability to face each other all those years later, and that chemistry still there, that storytelling still there, and that importance is still there. But let's kinda continue on here. We'll talk plenty more about Io, Mayu, and Kyrie along the way, but I did wanna just talk about them first. The first Stardom match I ever watched is a very unique one, and this is, again, shout out to Alex, but it was Arisa Hoshiki versus Nanae Takahashi. This is the first ever passion injection match, for those who don't know, all the way back in 2011. Um, Arisa Hoshiki just debuted right before this. She had faced off with Mayu Iwatani in her debut match as well, and then she faces Nanae Takahashi, who was kind of the all-in veteran of the promotion, right? It was Nanae, Aikawa, and Tayo kind of as that big 3 veteran presence slash stars of the company with Aikawa. And then you had Arisa Hoshiki. And Arisa Hoshiki is the most unique fandom I think I could ever have, because Arisa Shiki from the very first match I watched wasn't any of her current run, but from this match I said, "Man, she's awesome. She's awesome." And this match just showed her raw potential to the max, and I remember saying, to Alex, like, "Arisa Shiki, this is the one, man, like, this is the wrestler I can't wait to watch more and more." Meanwhile, little did I know that she had been injured when I started joining in and ultimately retired soon after that. Heartbreaking in so many ways, and in other ways, painful. painful because it was far from the last time I would love something Arisa Hoshiki. Arisa Hoshiki became my second favorite Stardom wrestler of all time, folks. Arisa Hoshiki was someone who opened my eyes to the beauty of a rookie developing, if you listen to this and you watch my future Joshi series, you know how much I love the development of these young rookies and watching them grow. And I think so much of that for me was watching Arisa Hoshiki all the way back in 2011. She had not wrestled for a long time before retiring, then eventually coming back years later. But it was the matches with Aikawa and Nanai and even the Mayu debut match where it's like, this Shiki's special, man. She's gonna be incredible. She's gonna be unbelievable. And I think that's kind of where I fell in love with the idea of the development of the future more than maybe anything in all of wrestling these days, especially in the world of Joshi. Why I talk about the Rinas of the world and the Suriyama Yokas of the world and the Chi-Chis and the Miku Kanes and all these different wrestlers who are just becoming such budding stars just by watching their matches, watching each and every match they have. Like the closest comparison we probably have to Arisa Shiki these days is like young Shino, and she is still so young. We don't know what wrestler she's going to develop into, but I think there is some similarities that I see between a young Arisa Shiki and even what Shino's bringing to the table. Um, but I just want to talk about Arisa here for a second because watching through Arisa Hoshiki's career, which isn't very long, it's not long at all. It's not a lot either, but it's special. Um, it is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. If you've watched and take the time to watch 150 Arisa Hoshiki matches, because that's all she had in her career, you're better for it. She was someone who lit up the screen in so many ways, whether it was through her all obviously joyfulness that she had. She was called the shining star for a reason. Her incredible natural pro wrestling ability that she showcased in the ring. She gets me to watch some of her matches every single year. And like I said, 150 matches. It's not like there's a long catalog. I've seen most of them, if not all, by this point. And yet, through 150 matches, she left her own note on Joshi Wrestling. It was a statement in so many ways of what she was able to do. And all these years later, she's now almost been retired for 6 years. All these years later, we are still celebrating how incredible she was in the ring, how unbelievable she was in the ring. I know I am. I know I am. Every time there is at least once a year where I just think to myself, like, man, I miss Arisa. I hope she's doing well. Like, that's the number one thing. I hope Arisa Shiki's doing well. I don't know what she's doing in her life these days. I don't need to know. I just hope she is doing well. Tam Nakano, one of my favorite things that Tam would ever do is just bring up her name, bringing her name up in public at any time when she was talking about something throughout her career, all the years after she retired. And like that's one of the great things that I really appreciate about Tam is always kind of letting us know Reese is doing something out there. Reese had sent um something for Tam's final match at All Star Grand Queendom last year. So it was like one of those things where I'm like, okay, that makes me feel good. I don't want to talk about like my favorite Arisa Hoshiki matches just yet because two of them are going to be highlighted later. Later, I'm going to highlight 15 of my favorite Stardom matches. I don't know if they're the exact top 15, but they're the 15 that came to mind. Um, that I either still watch a lot or think about a lot. They're not the 15 best. They're not. They're just 15 of my favorite matches. And I tried not to do any rematches. So like we're only gonna get one EO versus Mayu on there. Try to change it up, try to include all these different things. But she's got two of them on there that are just two of my favorite matches of all time. And we'll talk about them then. But between and the thing about Arisa is like there was still so many ways for her to improve, but she was as talented as they come. She was as gifted as they come. She had the strikes, she had the kicks, she just had everything. Her Brazilian kick's one of the most beautiful professional wrestling moves of all time. The way she hit it, the accuracy she hit with it, and just the beauty she hit with it. She put on performances that will make you remember her forever. And while she only had 150 career matches, like I said, she left a legacy in those 150 matches. She made sure you remembered her. Her Wonder of Stardom title reign is one of my favorite title reigns in the history of Stardom. Plain and simple. It's a reign that never got to end, unfortunately, correctly, but it's one that I will never forget. Like I said, Arisa Hoshiki, someone who did not have the long career that I'm grateful that so many others of my favorite wrestlers have had, but she didn't need to be one of my all-time favorites. She didn't. She just didn't. That's how special she was. That's how amazing she was. And if you're watching this video, maybe you're a new Stardom fan, a new Joshi fan, you're saying, Arisa Hoshiki, who's that? Wait, just wait. I'm gonna give you some matches to watch at first because I think I've already given you two. I do think watching those 9 Aikawa matches are very unique and very fun. But I just wanted to start this off talking about Arisa after Threedom because in my uh way of watching and getting caught up and all that, she was a major part of my love for Stardom, love for Joshi becoming a real thing all the way back in 2020. And speaking of which, the two wrestlers that, you know, were active for me when I finally got up to date, were Momo and Mayu. Um, Momo has some similarities to Arisa, obviously the kicking background, and Mayu's just I said it then. There was articles I used to write. I said Mayu Iwatani is probably the best wrestler I have ever seen. Just her insane ability to perform in the biggest of matches in a way that I had never seen before when I was watching. And to think where we are now all these years later, how much better she's gotten, all the 6 years even from this match. This match was the 9th anniversary show, right here that you see between Momo and Mayu, and a fitting one, by the way, a fitting 9th anniversary match. Um, but to think, we're essentially 6 I'm recording this on the 19th. I think that's exactly 6 years after this match happened. Like, fitting, fitting. But, man, I wanna give love to Momo. I wanna give love to Mayu. They're my favorite combination in Stardom history. There was just every time they matched up until the very last one, a historic crossover, I was giddy at the idea. I was excited at the idea. They have some of my favorite matches in Stardom history. Um, they have like I said, my favorite chemistry ever because anytime you put these 2 in the ring, you knew they were gonna deliver, you knew they were gonna shine. Was it gonna beat their last match? Oh, I don't know. But was it gonna be great? Yes, every single time. Whether it was the 5-star Grand Prix, whether it was for the World of Stardom title, whether it was for the IWGP Women's title, whether it was tournament wrestling, whether Momo was a heel, whether Momo was a babyface, whether Momo was a kid still, essentially. These 2 always performed, always delivered. And I just remember seeing that 2020 match, the 9th anniversary match of Stardom, and loving every second of it. And in 2021, they have a match that I still fondly remember and will be talked about here later on. But um, I know if you're into Stardom now, you've probably experienced part of the, like, everyone wants Momo to succeed thing because it's real, it's real. She won the 5-star Grand Prix, and then things didn't go the way they should, but once upon a time, it felt like she was inevitable to win that World of Stardom title, and man, oh man, oh man, really up until that heel turn at the end of 2021, it is an unbelievable run she has, and her heel turn, she is fantastic. I still think she is fantastic to this day. Um, but man, oh man, really through the end of 2021, from like 2018 through the end of 2021, that run for Momo is just sensational with some all-time Stardom classics mixed in there, including this one. I love this match. I love this match. It's not even my favorite. May not even be my second favorite or third favorite of their series, but I do love this match, and I do love these two because, like I said, they were really key in me falling in love with what Joshi wrestling was. I gotta talk about Queen's Quest. It's only fitting. Queen's Quest was the coolest, man. You know, like they were so cool. Whether it was Io's iteration or Momo's iteration or Utami's iteration, it was just so cool. And when I really got up to it, I was like, "This is the coolest faction ever! Like, this is awesome." The color coded, the masks, the coats, everything. Look at these four wrestlers. You have Momo Watanabe, Utami Hashishita, Azumi, and Saya Kamatani. I don't know if anyone at this time, mind you, Saya is well on her way to a big time push. But I don't know if at this time anyone could have predicted Saya Kamatani would become the size star she is today. But I just want to give loves to Queen's Quest. That's what this video is at the end of the day. Like, we're celebrating the 15th anniversary just kind of by me sharing my favorite parts of Stardom and its history and kind of reliving myself getting into the promotion and just how amazing Queen's Quest was. I'll never forget it Queen's Quest. Azumi could have just ran the group, you know, like that it was always destiny and it never happened, and I'm still upset about it. But man, oh man, it was the coolest group, you know? Um, it really was. The flag, the demeanor, the coolness. There was nothing like Queen's Quest. Queen's Quest is even my favorite faction in Stardom history. Like stars forever, yep, until Mayu, you know, moved on, obviously. But Queen's Quest, when I jumped into Stardom, it was them, DDM. Oh man, man, oh man, oh man, there was just some cool things going on. And I just wanted to shout out Queen's Quest here for a second because this picture always is like, man, like look at that star power, look at that success right there, you know. Back to Thunder Rock, I just think I can't ignore Thunder Rock. Some of the great all time great tag team matches in Stardom's history. The greatest tag team in Stardom's history is Thunder Rock. You know what they were able to do together apart, um, while always sharing the same ring. It was just second to none, man. It was just you might have found this channel in the lead up to EO versus Mayu at the end of last year. So you kind of heard enough about me and how much I love these two and what they bring together. And the idea of a Thunder Rock reunion is unbelievable to me. Uh, but go back and watch. Go back and watch what they did together, please. The best Thunder Rock match is probably Mayu and Io versus Mako and Kyrie. That's probably the best one. That match is sensational. Almost made the top 15 list. Almost made the top 15 list, but I went with some others. Not really because of any other reason besides, you know, it just there was just such a long list. Um, there's also an amazing match. They face Hazuki and Kagetsu. I believe that's the final Thunder Rock match. There's also an amazing one against Kairi Hojo and Yoko Bito. We love Yoko Bito. Shouts out to her. Um, JK Green, there's a fantastic one that you could check out. They even wrestled Sendai Girls against Dash and Sendai Sachiko. That's amazing. Yeah, just there's I mean, there's two of them. There's also one in Stardom, but you get my point. Like Thunder Rock, just as a duo, was unbelievable. And watching through their clips was like, a tag team's this good, this tag team's this amazing. It was like unlike anything. It was unlike anything, man. You know, like seeing Thunder Rock for the first time. If you've never gone back and seen those Thunder Rock clips, go out of your way to do it. That's all I'm saying. Speaking of Yoko Bito, I mean, this is Kyrie about to absolutely obliterate her with an elbow. But Yoko Bito, Kyrie, um, there's so many kind of through Stardom's history that I think can be overlooked. Hiroyo Matsumoto, so many that made Stardom as great as it was, whether it be the early days, whether it be the late days. I loved Yoko Bito, loved her. Um, the Hiroyo Matsumoto and Jungle Kiona versus Kairi Hojo and Yoko Bito match is one of the all-time great tag matches in Stardom's history. Mayu versus Yoko Bito, I love, 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 love. Um, and a lot of Yoko Bito's return when she comes back is really great. As you can see here, Kairi and Yoko. There's a great Io Shirai versus Yoko Bito match at the end of 2017. There's just so many. There's just so many. There's just so many matches and things I can go on and on and on about because that's kind of where we were at. That's kind of how great Stardom was through the years. While Stardom is on this pedestal now, there are so many great wrestlers, and it's why I love that Yuzuki Aikawa is at least back for this little anniversary bit because there's so many great wrestlers that I think aren't gonna, be fully adored, fully loved, maybe is the word from Stardom fans to this day. I'm always gonna talk about Mayu and Io and Kyrie, um, and obviously so many of the current stars now, Shuri, Julia, Tommy, Momo, you get the point, but it's the Yoko Bitos of the world. It's even Jungle Kiona. Like I know Jungle Kiona gets a ton of love now. But I think there is something to be said about kind of how incredible Jungle was and her rivalry with Momo and her chase for the Wonder of Stardom Championship. It's something that I know I missed not being there, but being able to watch those title matches later, you get such an amazing appreciation. And to talk about maybe the most at this point uh I don't want to say underrated because I don't think this is correct, but it's one of the most important figures in Stardom's history and one of the most incredible wrestlers I've ever seen. And that, of course, partnered with Hazuki, but as Kagetsu. Um, Kagetsu, better known to many now as Yuashino, he was sensational. Sensational. There are matches, there are moments, there is so much fun that came with these two, that came with Oedo Tai, led by Kagetsu, that I think if there's anything I'm most jealous of not witnessing in real time, it was that. It was the Oedo Tai of Kagetsu's era. Like getting to watch those pre-match promos. Like those are things that I think a lot of people forget about, but one of the most beautiful things of Stardom back in the day was the pre-match promos. They were so little, but they were so useful. They helped tell the story. They got you ready for a match. They're one of the great pieces of business that I think make so many of those old matches and so many of those pre I mean they lasted pretty decently into the first couple years of um being bought by Bushiroad, but those 2019, 2018, 2017 pre-match promos, like man, oh man, oh man, they brought so much character, they brought so much fun, they brought so many hilarious moments. Um, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's like this. It's where Mayu said that all the time. It was where you got the funny and like Kagetsu and Oedo Tai were so special at that, on top of being such sensational professional wrestlers. Obviously, I sing the praises of Hazuki to this day. I am going to sing the praises of Hazuki again on this show, but Kagetsu, who I'm also going to sing the praise of, he was just someone who, if you talk about the Mount Rushmore of Stardom, and this is in my opinion, I think the three locks at this stage of the game are Io, Mayu, Tam. You know, like I think those three are the locks, and then it's that fourth spot that I think is always up for debate for people. Is it Kyrie? Maybe. Is it Sayaka Tani? Maybe soon. You know, maybe soon. Um, Hell, you know, you could give love to Momo. You could put Aikawa because she was at the beginning. You could give it to Nai. She was at the beginning. Kagetsu might have the best claim of them all to that fourth spot. That's how incredible of a wrestler Kagetsu was. Yoshino, he just got it. He just got it. Playing that heel character, a heel character that, you know, I don't think we have seen really since, you know, kind of being able to be funny, but also put on the big time, incredible heel match. And obviously, this is not a shot at any heel in wrestling today. This isn't just about Stardom or Joshi, but like just go watch, you know, Kagetsu versus Hazuki, even. Like that's a phenomenal match to go watch. Go watch Kagetsu versus Hana Kimura, versus obviously Mayu Iwatani. There's just so many amazing, amazing, amazing matches that you can really just feel that. And then there are even the comedic bits throughout history. But I just wanted to give love to Team Moon here as well, the duo, but especially Kagetsu, who was just sensational. I would not be able to talk about my stardom fandom without talking about Hana Kimura. As I was getting into Stardom and as I was watching through was unfortunately when Hana Kimura passed away. And I still get emotional to this day. I've done many conversations with people, many videos, content, whatever you want to call it, just talking about how incredible of a person she was, how incredible of a wrestler she was, all these different things. But I want to celebrate Hana here because one of my favorite journeys for when I was getting into this was watching her 5-star Grand Prix that she won in 2019. It is such a, I think, perfect showcase of what I desperately, desperately miss from the 5-star Grand Prix these days. While the 5-star Grand Prix creates such awesome matches on a show by show, week by week basis still, you know, and obviously I think that really dialed up from 2021 on. Hana's journey through the 5-star Grand Prix is such a beautifully well told story of someone who kind of starts off super hot and winning and winning and winning, has all the confidence in the world to then get stunned by Saki Kashima in seconds, and that's kind of like the beauty of Saki Kashima, obviously. And then having to kind of buckle down because she has big matches against the likes of Mayu Iwatani and Momo Watanabe, and just kind of the beauty of the story before ultimately beating Konami on the final night in the finals to win the whole thing. It's a journey that I think perfectly captures who Hana was as a wrestler, perfectly captures how brilliant she was as a performer, and in so many ways just, you know, captures the brightness that she brought to professional wrestling. It's a journey that if you have never witnessed, go and do so. You know, you do get some fantastic matches in there. You know, the Mayu Momo one stand out to me, the Konami final. But you just get a journey. You get a story, you get a journey, you get so many moments throughout that are just so, so, so wonderful. And that's really what I think of when I think of Hana Kimura is how wonderful she was and continues to be such a bright light in our world today. You know, she's carried on by the likes of Rena, she's carried on by Julia and so many others who, you know, make sure her light never goes out. And that's kind of what I hope forever goes on because she was just unbelievable, man. Like you have to go back. You can feel how incredible she was by going back and watching her matches. I'm telling you. Just go. go right ahead and do it because I you won't be upset. You won't be upset about it, you know? It's a journey you will enjoy every bit of. I have to talk about Mayu here. I've talked about Mayu a lot, but I have to talk about Mayu again. This is kind of serving as kind of the official announcement as well for the big series we have coming out. But um, my fandom for Stardom, my fandom for Joshi isn't what it is without Mayu Iwatani. I think everyone knows that by now. She's the greatest of all time. She's my favorite wrestler of all time. She's everything that pro wrestling should be about, you know, the way she wrestles a big match, the way she uh really crafted herself through the 15 years of her career, you know. While we celebrate Stardom's 15th anniversary, we celebrate Mayu's too. Same day, same moment. They're celebrating at the same time. And while I'm doing this one video to celebrate Stardom's history and Stardom's 15th anniversary, I can't just do one for Mayu. I can't. I can't. I can't. There's so many matches, there's so many memories, there's so many moments, there's so many eras, there's so much. There's so much of there's so much to go over with Mayu from my personal experience because there's so much that I've witnessed, whether it be in real time or going back, that I absolutely adore and I absolutely love. And I want to tell that story. I want to do it in a way that I feel I am respecting her to the fullest, if that makes sense. So moving forward, starting this weekend, I introduced to you the Icon. Oop, wrong button. I introduced you to the Icon Collection. The Icon Collection will be the official Mayu Iwatani series right here on the YouTube channel. It will begin with her anniversary event on Saturday. The very first video will be going over Icon Forever, the Mayu anniversary 15th, sorry, the Mayu Iwatani 15th anniversary show and her anniversary match against Tommy Hashishita. That is how we will kick off the series. And moving forward over the next number of months and hopefully forever, I will celebrate the career of Mayu Iwatani. I plan to do at least 6 total videos this year, in the Icon Collection, maybe more, but it's a series that I don't plan to ever have end. The Icon Collection is that of her entire career, and we're going to continuously and adore her entire career every step of the way. So, we're gonna start, like I said, on Saturday. So if you want more from me about Mayu's anniversary and her career, we are bringing that to you in full force with a very special series. Shout out to my good friend Doc for making this incredible graphic months and months and months ago. I knew I was going to want to do this, and like I said, this is a series that begins celebrating her 15th anniversary and will go on for as long as I am doing this because there's always a reason to celebrate Mayu Iwatani, always a reason to celebrate her with the Icon Collection. And we will start it right with the Icon Forever show this Saturday. So please, please, please keep an eye out for that as we kick off the celebration of Mayu as she celebrates her 15th year. Now we get to the shows that kind of I just remember and some of the greatest shows I've ever seen. All Star Jam Cinderella is the first time I ever got to watch Stardom live. I remember how excited I was going into that show, and it is one of my favorite shows of all time because of the feeling. You know, they're going to the Nippon Budokan 2021, the massive stakes, and just the ultimate feel going into the show. You know, you have booked everyone, you know, from Chigusa Nagayo to Yuzuki Aikawa, Hiroya Matsumoto, Yoko Bito, and obviously, of course, you know, the big names of present day Mayu Iwatani, Julia Tam, Utami, the list goes on and on and on. And this was a culmination to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Stardom, a massive, massive way to celebrate the company's history. And this show and the memories I have from watching this show are unlike any other. You know, there's some been amazing shows, but this one just it sticks with me, and it's highlighted by three incredible, incredible matches. You had Mayu Iwatani versus Yoshiko, which is just one of my favorite, most underrated, I think, Mayu Iwatani matches of all time. Um, if you don't know too much about Yoshiko, you may know her history and what comes with that, but her return and getting to face Mayu in such an important moment, it was unlike anything else, and the emotions that they show face to face for the first time in years and years and years, and getting to share that ring to celebrate 10 years was unbelievable. It was unbelievable, and it was just, it wasn't even it wasn't the semi-main, it wasn't the main event, but man, oh man, oh man, it's one of those matches that I think I remember this the most. I really do. And again, yes, it comes with my bias of Mayu Iwatani, but I just remember the feeling of that match and the way that match was put together. And I understand people have their feelings about Yoshiko, but man, oh man, oh man, I think Joshi Wrestling really does miss uh Yoshiko and what she brought to the table. And I think this was like her last full full force Yoshiko performance, but I absolutely adore it. And then you had kind of the coming out party for Saya Kamatani. I don't know how many people know this, but All-Star Dream Cinderella, man, oh man, oh man, the boldness of Rossio Gawa, who of course was the creator of this promotion and the booker all the way up until beginning of 2024. But the boldness to put Saya Kamatani into the World of Stardom Championship match on the biggest show you pretty much have had since Yuzuki Aikawa's retirement. And to do so in the 10th anniversary show against Utami Hayashishita, who was in the midst of trying to prove herself as world champion. It was as bold as it comes, and I remember the feeling and the emotion um, that myself and many others had seeing Saya Kamatani hit the absolute home run against Utami. It was not only such a sensational match, but one that said, okay, like Kamatani's got something. We have something here. And it's funny to say now, obviously. You may be listening to me like, yeah, no shit. Of course she has something. But just thinking back to that and the feeling of that, it took her like the rest of the year for people to be like, oh, like, yeah, we can trust Kamatani now. That's the crazy part about her. Then she'd win the Cinderella tournament from here, and then she'd challenge Tam and she'd lose that. Then she'd come back around and win the title at the end of the year in an awesome match. And then she'd go on her record wonder Stardom title reign, and the rest is history. But this was the home run of all home runs. And then, of course, you had the main event that I think many, many, many remember. That, of course, was the emotional, amazing main event between Tam Nakano and Julia, and the feud that was Tam Nakano versus Julia, and in the box office that feud brought, and the emotions that came with this match, and the hair versus hair aspect that is so historic in Joshi's history, so historic in so many different ways, and pretty pretty surreal, pretty surreal to think about in terms of where these two have gone in their career since then. But I remember how big this match felt when they made their entrances and went face to face. And I remember how emotional it was when the match was over and Tam's like, I can't shave her head. And Julia's like, just do it. Just do it. In the end, just kind of the emotions that came from that. And then Julia's the badass G.I. Joe look for like years and years and years. It's kind of crazy. Julia never looked like this again, which was like the original Julia look, because her hair got so long eventually, and she became another size star in time. But yeah, I mean, they fought for the Wonder Star title. big main event, and the rest is history. All-Star Dream Cinderella, we will have a 5-year anniversary video talking about that entire show here in a few months, so look forward to that. But then we kind of move on, and we move on to the 5-star Grand Prix, the first ever 5-star Grand Prix that I witnessed in real time. It has a special place in my heart. It's such an awesome tournament. The 2021 tournament kind of walked so that the 2022 tournament, which I think is uh, the best round robin tournament I've ever seen, could run. But the 2021 holds a special place in my heart of how truly awesome it was. And we'll talk about it a bit more here in a little bit because we are going to talk about that final that does make the 15 matches I want to talk about here today. But yeah, it was an incredible tournament. And speaking of which, the 2022 5-star Grand Prix was unlike any tournament I ever watched. Every show, just an out of this world match. Every night, an out of this world match. It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable how incredible this tournament was. You had the story of Julia from start to finish. You had Shuri, who was the World of Stardom champion. You had Sayaka Otani, who was the Wonder Stardom champion. You had Mayu Iwatani, peak of her powers. You had Starlight Kid, who had come into her own. You had Hazuki back at full force. You had Mirai coming into her own. You had Suzu Suzuki, who was just on top of the world, and soon, not even a full part of the roster. You had Tam. You had Micah coming on. You had Risa Sarah, who was sensational. You had all these different things going on that made this tournament so unbelievably great, so unbelievable, period. It is, like I said, to me, the best round robin tournament I have ever seen. It will never be topped. The perfect of the storytelling to get Julia to the final and the way that final night unfolds. That final night is one of the greatest shows I have ever seen, and that is why I have this on here. The final night of the 2022 5-star, Julia versus Tam in the final, perfect. Julia versus Suzu before that, amazing. Mayu versus Starlight Kid, an incredible storytelling match. Was that the Hazuki Momo show as well, where Hazuki gets upset? I believe it was. That was fantastic as well. Um, just so many different pieces to an unbelievable night. Like, I remember that when that show was over, I was like, I have 3 matches from the show potentially in the top 10 on my year. That's how great it was. If you've never seen this show, if you've never seen this tournament, I ask you, I tell you, go back and watch it. It's just something so unbelievably special. Um, that I don't know, it's magic that I don't know if you can ever capture fully again. I don't think we try to tell the story necessarily of the winner as well as we did back then. And that's just the reality of it. Like the story of Julia and the story of Shuri the year before, they were winners that were undeniable, but they were winners that made sure throughout weave their story in and out in a way that was just so unbelievable. So yeah, the 2022 5-star final is just one of my favorite shows of all time. And like I said, the final ends up being Tam and Julia. I think it's my favorite Tam and Julia match of all time, which might be a hot take. But it's a sensational final. It's probably the second best 5-star Grand Prix final of all time to me, and it's only topped by 2021, which is one of the all-time great matches I've ever seen. So it's not like this isn't like this was actually considered for my favorite 15. It's a 5-star classic. A 5-star classic to close out a 5-star level tournament. Like that's how I feel about that. That's how amazing it was. I get emotional kind of thinking about it because it was everything, guys. Like I said, like 2021 through the end of 2022. It was unbelievable. And of course, you had All-Star Grand Queendom 2023. Just the culmination of everything. The culmination of 3 years of unbelievable building and unbelievable work, going to the Yokohama Arena to set, at the time, the record for most, fans in attendance for a Stardom show. And you had the match, the ultimate dream match on the show. You had the moment of Mina Shirakawa on the show, ending Sayaka Utani's record reign and doing so in a way that was just so unbelievable. I don't know how many people remember the Mina madness that was end of 2022 through 2023, but that's another part of the 2022 tournament that's so amazing is Mina's growth in that tournament and what that became, and it led her to this moment. This moment, her unbelievable performance to win the title, a title that at one point felt so out of reach for her, but she proved she was ready for, you know? And then, like I said, the dream match of all dream matches for me at the time, I had said so many times, like, I don't know if there's a world that Sasha Banks could face Mayu Iwatani, but to me, that's the biggest dream match humanly possible. And when Mercedes Moné was born at Wrestle Kingdom that year, the hopes became a reality. The IWGP Women's Championship was part of it, and it happened. And I'll tell you what, it's the match has become underrated at this stage of the game, which is incredible to think considering the two wrestlers. Considering on one hand, I think Mercedes Moné is the greatest North American women's wrestler of all time, and I think Mayu Iwatani is the greatest wrestler of all time. It's so physical, it's so nasty. It's a different level than I think anything anything we could have ever expected, but it's so good. It's so good. Like, go out of your way to watch it now because I think it aids like a fine wine. I loved it at the time, but I love it even more thinking back to it. And then of course you had the big, like I said, box office main event once again. Julia and Tam are running it back. It is it's crazy. It's crazy. I've been thinking about this lately. I miss these two so much. You know, I talk about Stardom, I talk about Joshi all the time, and I love it, and I think Joshi right now is at such an amazing spot between Stardom's popularity and what Marigold's doing, what TJPW is doing, and Sendai Girls is doing, and all the young, youthful talent that's filling the scene and kinda creating a buzz everywhere. It's so strong, but the scene misses these 2, like, these 2 and their craziness, whether it be together, apart, uh, I mean, neither of them were ever my favorite wrestler, right? But I always followed what they were doing. I was always enamored with what they were doing. I was always paying attention to what they were doing. The Julia run is one of the most fun to experience. There's some bumps and bruises along the way, but it's just amazing. The Tam run that again, the beauty of Tam Nakano, if you watch her from the very beginning, is she was never supposed to be this big of a star, but my God, did she become an even bigger star than even I think she might have imagined. And it led all to this match and Tam Nakano becoming World of Stardom champion, something that never, ever, even watching this match, I was like, well, that's not going to happen. And she wins. And yeah, I mean, this show kind of marks the end of the Stardom that I had initially fell in love with so in so many ways. But yeah, it was awesome. I just get giddy kind of thinking about it because what a time it was, and these 2 were a big part of that, these 2 were a big part of that. These 2 moving on, Tam retiring, Julia moving on to America, it just it changed the scene massively with both of their exits. It really did. They were 2 true superstars. Um, and I mean, I even love their final match before Julia leaves Stardom. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh my god." No, it's kinda awesome. It's kind of amazing. It's kinda everything I want from those 2. Um, yeah, man, like, the Julia Tam stuff has just thinking back, I miss the hell out of them. That's all I'm gonna say. I miss the hell out of them. They brought some of my peak, fandom moments with their matches because they're on some of my favorite shows of all time. And I've talked about it 3 times: All-Star Dream Cinderella, All-Star Grand Queendom 2023, and the 5-Star Grand Prix 2022 final. All of those shows main evented by these two. And all 3 shows are 3 of my most favorite shows of all time. So like, yeah, yeah, they were great. And then, of course, this past year, All-Star Grand Queendom 2025, kind of the final show to talk about here before we get to those 15 matches I want to talk about before we get out of here. We went an hour. I wanted this to be 40 minutes. Oops. But hey, 15 years of stardom helped my journey, helped me fall in love with Joshi. So it's only right. But obviously, All-Star Grand Queendom 2025 was unlike anything. By the way, just the All-Star Grand Queen 2023 also had Shirai versus Hashimoto, which is an unbelievable match. I still think 2023 is my favorite show of all time. I do. 2025 is incredible. But that 2023, like I said, it felt like the culmination of a journey in so many ways. But All-Star Grand Queen of 2025 speaks for itself. Mayu Iwatani versus Shirai, the most emotional I've been for a match in quite some time. That's, again, wasn't a retirement match, but it was Mayu's farewell to stardom, and you felt every bit of it through that match. And then, of course, the incredible main event, Saya Kamatani and Tam Nakano, and the retirement of Tam, one of the all-time great stardom matches. I think probably for many maybe the best. I mean, to me, it's not the best, but it's an incredible match, an incredible moment, and it's the greatest retirement farewell of all time. I will give Tam that. There will never be anything like it. I love Joshi retirement. Well, I hate them, but I love them. I hate them because I don't want them to happen, but I love them because they're so classy. They're so amazing. I'm just fresh off bawling my eyes out over Arisa Sarah's retirement. So it's fitting, but in so many ways, the way Tam did it, you can't top it. The way Tam did it, it's special. It's one on one. So for that, I gotta appreciate it. I gotta appreciate it. I gotta love it. But All-Star Grand Queendom 2025 also had May Sarah versus Sue Suzuki, Azumi versus Starlight Kid, and so on and so forth. Just a phenomenal show. But let's talk about it. My 15 favorite stardom matches of all time. Listen, I write of all time. This is a disclaimer. I don't know if these are the exact, but this was how I was feeling tonight, and I didn't want to double down. So I had multiple EO versus Mayu matches in my head, but we're gonna only talk about one. But I wanted them all to be at least different matchups of some sort, but let's close this out. Let's celebrate the 15th anniversary with 15 of my favorite stardom matches of all time. Maybe it's not exact. It's also not in order. We just put it in chronological order. But with that being said, let's get to it. Shouldn't shock anyone, but the double title match, Io Shirai versus Mayu Iwatani, World of Stardom Championship versus Wonder of Stardom Championship. It's a match that it's one I watched when I got into Stardom back in 2020 that I just have such fond memories of, because in my journey I had just become so enamored and loved what Mayu Iwatani did. I loved what she did. I loved her big matches. I loved everything about it. And I was witnessing her journey, facing EO. I was witnessing her journey and the story of trying to overcome EO. So when I finally saw this match, and I watch it every year, I was so emotional. I was so emotional. I didn't know the result the first time I watch it. I'm still emotional every time I do. And you have to have an appreciation for, EO at this point. Her body is beat to hell. She needs to take a major break after, she had originally been leaving for WWE, but the neck didn't allow it, so she's ends up staying around for another year, but this in many ways was the farewell, and it was the ultimate crowning moment for Mayu Iwatani, who would win the double crown and be one of 2 people to ever hold both the World and Wonder of Stardom titles at the same time, becoming the first to ever do that. I think their second match of that trilogy that a lot of people talk about is probably the best one. But this is my favorite one just because of the emotions I felt the first time I watched it, you know? I think that goes so far, in terms of and I think that's kinda like how I'm gonna go over this so many times, like, these aren't the best matches in Stardom history. I know Io Shirai versus Meiko Satomura for many is still considered the greatest match in Stardom history or one of the greatest matches in Stardom history. I know there's some other matches I don't have on here that I want to have on here. Like, for example, I wanna have Kairi versus Mayu from Historic Crossover, but it just there's some other ones that just meant a little bit more, as I watched along and, you know, Mayu lost that one, so that doesn't help either. Um, but in all seriousness, like, I'm just telling you that now as we go along, but this is number 1 on the list in turn not overall, just number 1 out of the 15. We're going in chronological order, like I said, but it's a beautiful, beautiful match. This one I have talked about so many times, whether you follow me on Stardom Road, whether you follow the 5-Star Joshi show, I don't know what you may follow. This match is incredible. This is probably top 5. Like, I'm not ranking these, but if I was, this is probably top 5. I adore this match. Queen's Quest versus Oedo Tai is just it was the recipe, man. It was the recipe, man. We'll talk about it again in here in a little bit. But this match is a gauntlet match where the story was the loser of Momo Watanabe versus Tam Nakano, whoever lost at the end had to leave the faction. And the emotions, the action, you have the highs of highs, right? You have the EOs and Kagetsus. You have the young, incredible stars of Hazuki and Hana Kimura and Azumi. You have the foreigners, the 2 of the great foreigners in the company's history in Viper and Chris Wolf. You have Natsu Sumir, who's an incredible comedic wrestler, especially. And then, of course, you have at the end Momo and Tam, who would become such major, major stars for this company from this point forward, really. Um, the story of this match, the action in this match, it's amazing. It's amazing. Every time I watch this match, I remember the first time I watched it because I said, like, "Oh my god, this is one of the best matches I have ever watched." It is a recipe that Joshi does so well. It's very similar to what we saw last year with Marigold and Marvelous, right? How great of a gauntlet match that was, and they did 2 of them, and I love both of them, but the first one especially. And this recipe right here, this is the best of the bunch, you know? Just there's something about these faction matches that you can do, and you can tell such stories that really raise more than just the wrestlers themselves. And in the final moments where Momo Watanabe is able to beat Tam Nakano, also sets up Momo to eventually be the one to take the Wonder Storm title for Io Shirai. This was kind of the rocket ship that she needed, and it's kind of incredible to think how Tam Nakano leaving Oedo Tai would lead to her joining Stars and kind of creating her forever story that brings her to superstardom. But yeah, this match is just it's incredible. This was also the anniversary match. So at this time was the 8th anniversary of Stardom, so that's always cool too. This was the 10th anniversary match of Kagetsu, and it was a World of Stardom championship match against one Mayu Iwatani. Um, I believe this is probably my favorite Kagetsu match. It is crazy. It is where you see the very famous video of what Kagetsu does to poor Mayu, but it's also incredible. It's just an incredible world championship match, and it's one that I think I did a video when we started the YouTube channel, at the very, very beginning on this match. Um, and I went back and watched it recently. It's amazing, amazing. It I think going back and getting an appreciation for what these 2 did, it was Kagetsu and Mayu who had to lead the company forward post Kairi and Io. Kagetsu was the world champion. He needed to be that world champion at the time, and Mayu was Mayu. And this felt like in so many ways, after the injury woes that ended her double title reign or her first World of Stardom title reign and the way it did, this was getting her back on the saddle almost in a lot of ways. And their rivalry, their connection, their chemistry, it was second to none. It's a chemistry that's, I think honestly should go down as one of the most underrated in Joshi history. And I say that because I think I even underrate it at times. But when I watch back a match like these 2, I'm like, "Man, that's part of the 15 I wanna highlight here." I still think this is the greatest match in Tam Nakano's history. I it's magic. It's pure magic. Arisa Hoshiki versus Tam Nakano for the Wonder of Stardom Championship. It is the storytelling that Tam does so well. It is the action and brutality that Arisa Shiki brought, and the swiftness and the just the word that comes to my mind still is magic. It's just a magical match. Everything clicked. Everything hit. It was a moment that was just so it's so good. It's so good because Tam Nakano has had so many big matches since this. She has the full Julia feud. She has the Saya Kamatani feud. Most people will probably say the final match of her career is probably the best, if not that one. The other Saya Kamatani one or one of the Julia ones, and that's fine. But this match is it's the ultimate, man. It is the ultimate Tam performance. It's the ultimate Arisa Shiki performance. It is a genuine five-star classic. I think it's in consideration for greatest Stardom match of all time. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's so good. I I don't have any more words to say about it. It's why people love it's why people fell in love with Stardom so long ago. It's a match like this. Um, I'm gonna sing the praise of Arisa a few more times, but like I said, this is still my favorite Tam match of all time. She's had amazing performances against Julia, against Saya, against Mayu. List is long. Tam's had an amazing career, but this is still her best day. I really do think that. I think this day is kind of the one that helped lead her to the many, many great days she had forever after that. But oh, it's just unbelievable. My next one, this is a unique one to me. I have loved this match ever since I watched it. I have never ever wavered from this being one of my favorite matches of all time, and that is Suzuki versus Arisa Hoshiki. There's a reason I call Suzuki the greatest Wonder Star Championship performer of all time, and it is because of a match like this. These two and what they brought to the table, I am I am the biggest fan there is of this match. I am. I know it. I know I am. But it is one that sits with me. It continuously pops into my mind. I wrote an article about this back in the day, It is Arisa to me at her best, kind of away from the Tam story that's so amazing in that match. And for Hazuki, it is the ultimate showing of why she was just so truly amazing. Her physicality, the best of Hazuki as a heel. I think this is Hazuki's great heel performance. Um, and it's in a Cork and Hall, so that's a win as is. I I couldn't recommend this match enough. I really couldn't. Um, it is one of my all-time favorite matches. It's one of my all-time favorite Stardom matches. It's very, very high on the list because for some reason, when I watch it, it clicks all the boxes. It's Arisu's one of my favorites ever. It's Hazuki's one of my favorites ever. It's just genuine magic. If you've never seen this, please go out of your way to do so. This one just sticks with me. It is not fundamentally like this all-time classic. I know for some, like, when they first saw it, I was like, "Oh, that was pretty good," and then, like, I've gone back and said, "No, you gotta go rewatch it," because this to me was the match that made Julia. Um, and I thought the chemistry and the energy that Hana Kimura had with Julia was just unteachable in so many ways. It was, in so many ways, what gave Julia the blueprint for who she needed to become, I think, in Stardom. And the lively crowd. That year-end climax show, that 2019 year-end climax show is amazing. It is Hana versus Julia, it is Konami versus Hoshiki, and it is Mayu versus Kagetsu. It is an unbelievable top 3. It's one of the all-time great Stardom shows. Um, but this match, I just always go back to it because it did so much for both of them, I think, especially Julia, and Julia has said that many, many times, and it's why she pays respect and has always paid respect to Hana Kimura. Like, this made Julia in so many ways and put her, like I said, on a rocket ship to the greatness she reached. And it's hard for me not to imagine, like, what could have been, what would have been between these two. But I'm just so happy we had this match. I am, because it's 15 minutes of kick ass brawling, 15 minutes of kick ass wrestling. It's it's awesome. It's just ah, it's awesome. It makes me emotional, but I'll forever love it. It has to be on my 15. It has to be. This one pulls the heartstrings a little bit, but yeah, Kagetsu and Mayu Iwatani versus Mo Watanabe and Joan Kiona, part of Kagetsu's retirement road, the final starter match of Kagetsu's career. You see Mayu Iwatani wear the matching gear to Kagetsu, which is iconic, by the way. Um, you got Momo and Jungle on the same side for the first time in a long time. J.K. Green comes back together. It's it's so amazing. It's so wonderful. It's, like I said, in so many ways, it kind of fully embraces the beauty of Joshi wrestling and Joshi retirement roads, because it's a match that you don't get unless you're on one. Like Kagetsu, he's not going to team with Mayu, but for this match, we got that. And it brings a smile to my face every time I see it. They're so badass. Stand next to each other in the matching gear. The Momo and Jungle that are so emotional to have this opportunity to be in this match and get picked for this match. It is in so many ways. I think it's a match that's like it it's a comfort match. I think that's my best. While some of these matches are some of the most unbelievable top of the line matches you'll see, this is a pure, fantastic comfort match. And I think a lot of people would probably agree with me. Um, it's so good. It's so good. It's so lovely. I think it really captures it captures a level of pro wrestling that only Joshi can do. I think that's kind of my main takeaway on a match like this. It's lovely. I love reliving these. I'm gonna rewatch all these after this, but um yeah, it just watch it. Maybe the hot take on this, but it's a two-parter. 2020, the two matches between Mayu and Takumi Iroha are unbelievable. I think they're my two favorite matches of 2020. The first one being, I think, the slightly more highly acclaimed match, but this one is Mayu getting to hit back, and I love that. Mayu is such an unbelievable underdog that, in that first match, he pretty much tells Takumi, "Destroy me," and no, don't worry, Takumi does just that. But this match is like the final amazing top of the line 5-star classic that Takumi has before the knee injury that took her out for some time. And I think Takumi has some amazing matches since then, but this was Takumi at her best. And this was Mayu right before dropping the World of Stardom title, having just, kind of finishing up a World of Stardom title reign. That's the most important in company history for so many different reasons. But seeing her bring that violence back to Takumi in ways that I don't know how many matches since then that have been as physical as this one, but it is brilliant. It's just absolutely brilliant. Like I said, they're two matches that year, my favorite two matches of 2020 as a whole. They're two very different matches. The first one happens in front of the crowds. This one happens in front of clap crowd. So I understand why that first match is loved a little bit more. But this one feels like the ultimate Mayu performance, and I'll always be a sucker for that over anything else. So that always plays a good part to it. Could you expect anything less? This is one of the greatest matches I've ever seen live. Maybe it's a very short list. Um, Utami versus Shuri, the first match that really sent the company into superstardom. Utami versus Shuri, Tokyo Dream Cinderella for the World of Stardom Championship. To me is the true top of the line Joshi match. Like, I, I'm not gonna sit here and say like nothing's ever topped it, but the feeling I had when it was over was unlike a feeling I've had many times after. It's only happened a few other times, and the brilliance of this match and the road it put Shuri on, I think, is part of why I adore this match so much. Shuri had been great for so long, but in so many ways, this was the ultimate, like, it's time. And Utami, it's one of Utami's all-time great performances. Not her greatest because she tops it a few years later in a different way, but it's her greatest singles performance ever. Um, like I said, it is one of the all-time great matches. I think it has a absolute argument to still be seen as the greatest Stardom match of all time. It is on my short list of favorite matches and greatest matches I've ever seen. Um, if you were to ask me my top 10 favorite matches of all time, it's in it comfortably. Um, it's I don't know if anyone's ever gone back and watched it, but the way they tell that story of going to the 30 minutes and then the bell restarts and the way they do it. Oh man, the double knockout draw, it's just freaking brilliant. It's brilliant. And it is the match that I remember, because I had started covering Stardom. I had started covering them kind of, with Voice of Wrestling, and the podcast started, I think, a little bit after the 5-Star Joshi show. So this was kind of a big part of that. And I just remember how many people were talking about it. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy seeing so many talk so many people talk about Stardom, and I remember writing an article, one of my favorite articles I've ever written about this match and how it was the rocket to superstardom for this promotion. It's just brilliant. I'm sure this probably is one of the matches you've already seen, so I get it, but I had to have it on here. Had to. This is probably my favorite non 5-star Grand Prix match, non-final match. Um it might still be my favorite Mayu versus Momo match. It's either this one or the crossover match. I love the crossover match from 2024, but I wanted to put this one on here because at this time they were comfortably my two favorite wrestlers on the planet. Two favorites that made me, like I said, helped me fall in love with Stardom, and they kicked off the 2021 5-star Grand Prix, the first 5-star Grand Prix I'm taking in, watching it live. They kicked it off with such an incredible bang with Momo pinning Mayu in just an unbelievable tournament match. It set the stage for a tournament that, like I said, still is probably my personal favorite, even though I think 2022 is the best tournament I have ever seen. And when she debut when Momo debuts the Peach Thunder and drops Mayu on her neck, I just remember saying, "Oh my god!" I remember it. I remember like it was yesterday. It's an amazing match, but it's not the last time I think we talk about Momo's 5-star Grand Prix now, is it? No. My Momo Watanabe versus Shuri 5-star Grand Prix 2021 final. I think the match has an argument of being an even better match than Utami and Shuri from that year. I do think it has that argument. I don't know if it's true, but I do think it has that argument. Another match that I think is probably in my top 10 favorites of all time. We're not done with those, by the way. Um, it is the greatest final match I've ever seen in a tournament. It's the greatest 5-star final ever. It is everything. It is amazing. It is. I wish they had a match graphic for it. That's my only complaint. Like I had to put this together to kind of sell the idea of it, but it is incredible. It is the culmination of Shuri's journey following that Utami match and going into this tournament, a tournament that many thought Julia was going to win, and Julia gets hurt. Shuri becomes undeniable. But Momo, in so many ways, has the fans on her side. Everyone wants a Momo to have that. And I just remember they did these like pre-match promos. Shuri was fresh off a draw with Takumi Iroha. Momo didn't wrestle the final. She only wrestled like in a three-way before the show. Very unique setting because Julia had gotten hurt and that was her finals opponent. Final night opponent, I should say, and it leads them to this all-time classic final. All-time classic final. I haven't watched it in a while, but it's one of those. It's one of those that I think, I just need to talk about. Speaking of an all-timer, I think it's my favorite Stardom Dream Queendom main event to this day. I don't think it's been topped. I don't think it may ever be topped. It's the culmination of Julia reaching the top finally and winning the World of Stardom Championship. It's the best match, I think, of Julia's career. It is also kind of like the end of Shuri at the very tippity top of Stardom, so it kind of makes me emotional in that way because Shuri should. I know she's IWGP Women's Champion, but she's never been pushed as hard as she was since then. And like I said, perhaps my favorite fandom time in my wrestling life was Stardom 2021 to the end of 2022, with this being the culmination of that. I use that word a lot on here, but I think it's meaningful. And I think 2025 into 2026, I've kind of found that pure, undeniable love that I had back then. But I don't know. I just think Shuri and Julia and the main event they had is unlike any match I have could have ever asked for out of them. They had incredible chemistry. They also had a great Stardom World Climax match that year, but this match felt like the ultimate, and this match when Julia won was the ultimate. You know, it's like when that pin was called and when it was over, it's like finally we have reached this moment and it feels so right. It feels so earned. It feels so perfect. And Shuri was the perfect opponent for that. Again, one of those that if you ask me my top 10 favorite matches of all time, it's at least in the discussion. I don't know if it makes it, but this is at least in the discussion. It's unbelievable. This match, however, is in the top 10 favorite matches of all time. The steel cage match, Queen's Quest, Oedo Tai, eliminate. You know it, Stardom Sunshine. You know it. You know what it is. You know how it was. You know the story of it. If you don't, go back and witness every bit of it. Watch the build up and how the doubt on Queen's Quest is becoming a reality, and it feels like the end is near, and how the performance of Utami Hayashishita's career is delivered. This is this is one of those matches, much like the Shuri versus Utami match, that I witnessed in real time and said, "Oh my god." I remember when it was over, like, a lot of people were just like, "That's the best match of the year. Nothing's topping it. So long. See you later." That's how amazing it was. It is a bona fide definition of five-star match in terms of action, in terms of wrestling, but most importantly, in terms of storytelling. And you have the iconic image on the top of Utami and Saya that still gets me emotional. And, you know, Utami's bloodied at one point in this match, which is crazy. And you have all the different story beats. You have Momo trying to stop, you know, try to convince Saya to turn on her. Oh, it's just it's it was Queen's Quest in so many ways in their final full run together. It was their final grand moment together. There's nothing like it, you know. There's nothing like it. It is an unbelievable experience, you know. It's one match I don't tell anyone to. If you witness this live, it's one match you don't need to go back and rewatch again, because you'll never you'll never feel, I think, the same way you did watching it live. It was an experience, not just in a match, an experience. I think that's kind of the beauty of it in so many ways. Just just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. I don't think this will come as a shock to anyone, but it's my two favorite wrestlers in the world, possibly of all time, wrestling one on one. They're my two favorite wrestlers of all time. Sorry, Mayu. You know, it's the one match I have between them. My favorite match of all time, for those wondering, is the tag match where they team up against Hashimoto and Venny. But one of my favorite Stardom matches of all time has to be the only showdown I've ever had between them. The only single showdown I've ever had between them. For the IWGP Women's Championship All-Star Grand Queendom 2024. It was everything when it happened, and it's still everything today. You know, it is a match that obviously was once upon a time supposed to happen, didn't. It took 4 years to get there, and I'm happy it did, you know? My fandom as a whole was very different from when it was supposed to happen compared to when it did, and it is the 2 best at their sport putting on a first-time classic, one that I think needs to be followed up somewhere here down the line, somewhere here soon, but, there was no world this wasn't gonna be counted on my top 15. There just wasn't. I love Shuri versus Mayu, either one from this title reign. I think they are 2 of my favorite matches as well, and I'm sad that I didn't get Mayu versus Shuri on here in some form, but I had to have this match because of the hopes and expectations and dreams I had for it, considering how highly I rank them and how highly I respect them, and for them to put on the show that they did Well, I think also leaving room for another unbelievable match. It's just sensational. It's just sensational. It is Sari at her best. It is Mayu at her best, and the physicality and the way they tell that story, and then the handshake after. Ah, I mean, it's my two favorites. Like y- can't beat that feeling, that emotion when it's going down. I just hope that the goat versus the best in the world happens again someday. Please, 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 please let it happen again someday. And my final match here, my favorite 15 matches in Stardom or from my fandom, is the most recent one from Path of Thunder 2025, Starlight Kid versus Rena. I think it is a match that brought every emotion for me, every moment for me. It is everything I look for in a 5-star type match. It's everything I look for in a match, to bring the emotional side of things, to bring the wrestling side of things, and to just tell a beautiful story from start to finish. A story that when it's over, I say to myself, man, the day Rena wins is going to be unbelievable. And I have this come out, day before her second time challenging, and this time against Konami, and that connection alone is going to make me emotional all over again. But this is one of my favorite Stardom matches of all time, and it's only right that I end it with this one, considering how much I really have loved what Rena's doing. Starlight Kid and the way she started off that Wonder Stardom title reign. It's one of my favorite matches, like I said, in uh the history I've watched Stardom, and I'm happy I could get one so recently on here, because in so many ways it was kind of the perfect way to dive into the new world of Star. I know All Star Great Queen 2025 hadn't happened yet, but we were on the brink of change in the promotion. I feel like this match is a great showcase of just that. It's an emotional one for me. If I have it check out up on this channel if you want to hear about it. But yeah, that is the final match on my 15 match list. And with that being said, admittedly, my connection to Stardom wasn't what it once was. I think that's abundantly clear if you listen to this entire video, and that comes with the exit of wrestlers and just the overall changing of the promotion in so many different ways in terms of storytelling elements and the way tournaments are done, and so on and so forth. But I still greatly enjoy the promotion. I still really love this roster and love where they're going and love what they're doing. And more importantly than all of that, I am forever grateful for what this promotion gave me. And that was a love and appreciation and helping me figure out and be re-inspired to what professional wrestling is to me, and altering me as a fan for good. Joshi Wrestling is everything to me now. This channel, everything I talk about, everything I cover, all the interviews, it happens because I dove into Stardom. And that will forever stick with me. That will forever stay with me. And that is why I am forever grateful for this promotion. That is it for me, folks. Thank you so much for listening to this 15th anniversary special. It's just me kind of talking about all that I've loved from Stardom through the years. I didn't get to talk too much about the Yuzuki Aikawas, the Nanais, the Yoko, Bitos, and so many other things I'd love to talk about. But I feel I hopefully, um, projected and shared my love for Joshi Wrestling and how I fell in love with Joshi Wrestling in a very strong way here today, because celebrating the 15th anniversary is celebrating a promotion that, like I said, helped change the way I watch wrestling, the way I view wrestling, and ultimately what I do here. I wouldn't be doing this without it, you know? And for me, talking about it and celebrating the 15th anniversary of Stardom is a very special one for me to do. So, congratulations to Stardom on 15 years. Here's to many, many, many more. Um, we'll be back on Friday to celebrate the 15th anniversary of Mayu Iwatani kicking off the Icon collection with Icon Forever with Mayu Iwatani's 15th anniversary match against Utami Hayashishita. That'll be an emotional one for me as well. We'll also be hopefully here on Wednesday or Thursday with a Stardom Korakuen review, at least talking Rin and Konami, as well as the return of Hanan and other things. Hopefully, we'll get one of those reviews up, but we'll guarantee you to have the start of the Icon collection on Saturday. So once again, hopefully you all enjoyed the 15th anniversary special. Please share below, what are your favorite Stardom matches of all time? When did you get into Stardom? I want to hear it. So please, please, please share your story of how you got into Joshi, how you got into Stardom, who got you into it? What was it, a wrestler? Was it someone? Whatever it was, I would love to hear your stories. So please, please, please share it if you have it, and let me know what your favorite Stardom matches, favorite Stardom wrestler is of all time below. But happy anniversary to Stardom, 15 years, and here's to many more. Thank you everyone for listening, and until next time, everyone, so long. See you later. Bye bye.